Il senso religioso o l'esperienza religiosa è
digli aspettare 10
innanzitutto
minuti,
un
aspettare
fatto,
5 minuti.
un fenomeno obiettivo, un fatto reale.
Cioè le 5 parti.
Non è un'idea.
No,
Innanzitutto non è un modo di sentire. Non solo si tratta di un fatto, di un avvenimento, ma del fatto più imponente e più inestirpabile della storia dell'uomo.
Ma io ne farei 2 almeno.
Più imponente,
quanto è? Quanto
più
dura?
vasto, che neanche il fenomeno dell'amore dell'uomo e della donna, che neanche il fenomeno del rapporto tra genitori e figli.
Ines.
Perché il senso religioso è un avvenimento che pone, che afferma o che ricerca l'orizzonte entro il quale acquisti senso anche il rapporto tra l'uomo e la donna.
Harry,
anche il rapporto tra
scusami, qui non
genitori
c'è la
e figli.
grafica, vero, dei giovani che dal sud vanno all'estero, fuggono
Perciò
dal
è
nord?
più vasto.
Questa no, ok. Maternini però l'aveva fatta vedere, giusto? La prima, scusa, è tanzanica. Questa l'aveva fatta vedere, sì.
Sì. Abbiamo già troppa roba. No, ma ne facciamo 2, Di spot ne facciamo 2.
No, considerato già i due spot.
E 2 spot dura 4 minuti.
Che sognavi di diventare astronauta.
Sì, no, facciamo salire.
Scienziato.
No, però stanno lì 10
Pilota
minuti.
di aerei.
Cioè, lo spottone mi ha detto che dura 4 minuti.
Supereroe. A te
Questo è il
diciamo.
primo.
Non smettere.
Mancano 5 minuti.
Investi in competenze. Trasforma la tua ambizione in realtà. Scegli Unimarconi.
Sì, ma dico, dopo ne facciamo partire un secondo uguale. So.
Da un'idea di Giorgio Vittadini, un laboratorio di ricerca, formazione, divulgazione per promuovere la cultura della sussidiarietà, motore di democrazia e sviluppo sostenibile. Fondazione per la Sussidiarietà, da 20 anni, un network che crea consapevolezza e partecipazione per il bene comune.
Manca 3 minuti per fare che cosa? Non capisco io. Vabbè. No, beh. Dico, ma adesso cosa fai? Devi far ripartire un altro?
Il senso religioso o l'esperienza religiosa è innanzitutto un fatto.
Andiamo.
Un fenomeno obiettivo, un fatto reale. Non è un'idea. Innanzitutto non è un modo di sentire. Non solo si tratta di un fatto, di un avvenimento.
Come si fa a abbassare?
Ma del fatto più imponente e più inestirpabile della storia dell'uomo. Più imponente, più vasto, che neanche il fenomeno dell'amore dell'uomo e della donna, che neanche il fenomeno del rapporto tra genitori e figli. Perché il senso religioso è un avvenimento che pone, che afferma o che ricerca
la camera qual è esattamente tra le due?
l'orizzonte entro il quale acquisti senso anche il rapporto
Leonore diceva
tra
che
donna,
avevo sbagliato a guardare.
anche il rapporto tra genitori e figli. Perciò è più vasto.
L'incontro va in streaming anche su diverse piattaforme, anche in diretta adesso sulle.
Da quando partiamo?
Per cui
da quando partiamo?
Parliamo naturalmente a loro, però come dire, laddove volete rivolgervi anche a chi è di fuori, si accendono le telecamere. Ieri hanno fatto 50.000 visualizzazioni sul sito del Sussidiario, quindi è rivolto molto anche all'esterno, insomma.
Astronauta.
Non è acceso?
Manager.
I microfoni sono già accesi?
Pilota di aerei. Psicologa. Supereroe.
I microfoni sono già accesi, mi chiedo.
Non smettere mai di sognare. Investi in competenze. Trasforma la tua ambizione in realtà. Scegli Unimarconi, la prima università digitale italiana.
Io.
Da un'idea di Giorgio Vittadini, un laboratorio di ricerca, formazione, divulgazione per promuovere la cultura della sussidiarietà, motore di democrazia e sviluppo sostenibile. Fondazione per la Sussidiarietà, da 20 anni, un network che crea consapevolezza e partecipazione per il bene comune.
Presumo che sia quella lì centrale. E beh,
Potrebbe
è
essere.
puntata verso di me. A me
No, è puntata verso di me in realtà. È lei? Inizia lei? No, inizia lei, perfetto, basta sapercelo. Ok.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Buon pomeriggio.
Good afternoon and welcome here together. I'll thank my companion here and to you too, Irene, Elisei. Let's start straight away with what we hope to be our mission, our objective in this second encounter of the talks, because we were there on Monday. We've started to look at what are the great changes in the world of work in evidence. Italy is not the current country for young people and for women, we see. And the Foundation for the Subsidiarity has sought to do a couple of deepenings on this in this category. Today we'll look at the young people, and we'll also do tomorrow another. So if today 1 woman in 2 doesn't work, and we are also ahead of one of the worst places in Europe for the NEETs, people who have not in education, employment or training. So why have we got to this situation? What might work? What can change? We'll talk with our guests, and I'll present them straight away. So Lorenzo Maternini, the co-founder of Talent Guard. Talent Garden is a digital enterprise, and he'll talk about it soon. Giorgio, Bianchi, the founder of Talent Ventures, a society which collects data on the world of work. Thank you. Welcome to you. Luca Farè, a young researcher at university, and who's recently returned to Italy, and to dialogue with them, Monica Poggio, the CEO of Bier Italy. So, let's start our meeting, starting from one particular. Journalistically speaking, like in the headlines, we always hear of the brain drain, this phenomenon of young people, new graduates often who go abroad and often don't come back. Behind this phenomenon, there are many contradictions from the world of work, which seems to get dumped on young people. So to start off, we look at some facts. What are we talking about? What are the numbers? Here comes the data. 1 million Italians in the last few years have left the country to go to work abroad, to abandon Italy with a degree certificate in their pocket. There are 250,000 people every year, which is roughly 5 to 8% of the graduates. There are many and different reasons for this choice. For example, unemployment. So after a year after university, according to recent information, 13% of the young people have work on their own, compared to only 4% who are self-employed, excuse me, and many more have a full-time contract of those abroad. Another factor is that the economic one. The second-level graduates in Italy, after 12 months, earn about 1,384 euros per month on average, whereas those who go abroad earn far more, as you can see on these statistics, and the factor increases as we look at those 5 years after graduation. Those who leave, once again, it's the south of Italy that suffers more from this, the people leaving towards the north, and so for those leaving from the north, the salary is better for many. So there really is a hemorrhaging of many thousands of brains. So in a world that's ever more globalized, it's not surprising that young people want to seek new possibilities and new experiences for personal growth abroad. They want to find tools to value this new emigration of Italians, to build up a network of relationships abroad that can help. The true data on which to look at is the incapacity of Italy to attract students. The balance between students leaving and students arriving is very poor in Italy compared to our principal competitors. It seems 4.2% leave and come back only 2.9%, so a negative 1.3% net outflow. So now it's time to start from here. So those numbers show the urgency of the situation. Straight away, 8% of new graduates decide to leave the country and to expend their awarenesses, their skills abroad. So this brain drain, as it's often called by the newspapers, is perhaps a reductive way. Let's start our dialogue with Maternini and Bianchi, the founders of two initiatives that have a common denominator to seek to give value to the talents and help them grow. So, Mr. Bianchi, so is it true to speak of brain drain? So I don't think it's correct, and that there are many young people in the hall. I hope that this film didn't seem like an advert for brain drain. I think it's good that people can go abroad, receive new stimuli, and come back to Italy. So we did some soundings, and many people say that Italy is the country I'd like to come back to, but I go abroad for two things. I go abroad because there are better job opportunities, better contracts, better salaries, or I go abroad because I can pick up new stimuli, like you said, learn new languages, new things. So internally within our country, maybe the most international city in Italy is Milan, where Milan has a problem though. Maybe more than one. The principal problem is that the salaries are too low in Italy compared to other European cities, whereas the cost of life in Italy is barely lower than other cities abroad. So that's one reason. The first thing to deal with is the work situation of young people in Italy. So how can we do something? We can start by augmenting salaries, increasing pay levels. So, on the other side, we can improve the life conditions of young people if we can reduce the costs in large cities. So housing, transport, so maybe people can live further outside and commute if there was good transport. So one is the conditions of work. There's a second problem or motivation for why people go away. That's stimuli. So if if we could maybe manage to bring into Italy the stimuli that people seek in other cities, not just in the great cities, but in many other realities. There's also the smart working concept now. So maybe that intellectual stimulation, the curiosity, these things, we could make the conditions more equal between Italy and abroad. The other thing I'd like to share is when we talk about the aspect of something that's very close to us, that for our young people, but maybe we care too little about bringing other overseas foreign students into Italy, foreign new graduates into Italy. So researchers, for example, for every foreign researcher who gets a grant or a bursary to come to Italy, there are 10 Italian researchers who get the same sort of thing to go to a foreign university. So we do not do well at attracting foreign researchers. From my experience, I had the chance to go on a program that was financed by the Department of State in America, and they have a range of programs to bring young people to the US, and this was for young business people from Europe. And with this program, they bring people into the US, they help them learn about the US, and so don't just take them to Los Angeles, Boston, or whatever, these main cities. I went to Charlotte, which is a smaller city. People go to Denver, etc. So they make people know about the country. And there are many ministers today around here today, so it'd be nice to launch a challenge to these people. Can we do a program to bring people from other European countries and South America, etc., into Italy, into the cities that aren't just Milan or Rome, but also the other cities? It would have three benefits at least: internationalizing our countries, our cities. So if people come to Perugia, to Rimini, etc., these cities will become more international. To learn who are the leaders in these places, and also to bring a bit of Italy back home with them. So we need to think about the young people in Italy as well as those who go abroad, and to import young people. So in terms of attraction, even within our country, so this brought a real idea of co-presence. So you founded 12 years ago Talent Garden. But can you recount how this thing started for you? So we heard a bit from Mr. Bianchi of young people who want to understand. So where do we start? Talent Garden was born from a provocation which really is in accord with what we're talking about today. It's born from a provocation, even a bit you might call absurd, that it wasn't necessary to go to Silicon Valley to have a digital business. I think maybe a decade ago it might have been. So all of those who are involved in the digital world now, there was a generation which there was only in one place. But a while ago we started talking about digital Italy. That what went from the internet bubble went into the world of apps, and industries, businesses were curious to see what was going on. And now it was particularly young people in startups who managed to satisfy what were the needs of innovation. In reality, the demand the question we hadn't placed ourselves is, why do you have to go to that place where everything seemed to be happening? Why was everything happening there? Because it was a place that was quite small, San Francisco and locality, the so-called Silicon Valley, where in reality there was a continuous exchange of knowledge, and the young people went to university, they went to meetings, they went to events, and the whole city was talking about innovation, digital things, new businesses. And we thought, do you really need to go there, or can we reconstruct here an ecosystem? Because what is the force of an ecosystem? It's the exchange of ideas. But there's another great detail. When young people, young professionals exchange ideas, they live the same experience, they exchange passions. In reality, reciprocally, they're giving themselves courage, vision. It says we say a lot about brain drain, we've seen the characteristics of that, the principal reasons, these entry salaries that are very low. But I also say, I believe, and I think we can testify to this, young people can, young people here could testify to it, that in the first few years, you're willing to make the sacrifice of a low salary with one condition, that there could be a hope that they could be a projection of something in the future, that you could touch with your hands the expectation that something could be made real out of this. This is what we really want to do, because people are ready to make sacrifices. But if there isn't that wish for that creativity to make a dream into something concrete, to find we're lacking this system. And Talent Garden was born from this. It was born to make physical places in more than one part of Italy where young professionals who are passionate about digital things and even business managers who are looking to develop that area could share their experiences. And this gave life to another factor, which is that exchange of knowledge became a factor for training, for that sort of peer-to-peer learning we describe, as they say in English. Exchanging knowledge helps you grow yourself. And so Talent Garden became a center of diffuse knowledge, of spreading of knowledge. And above all, among those who inhabit Talent Garden are those who, in reality, are the teachers for the teachers, for the people in Talent Garden. So far we've got, given this, objectively, this brain drain, as we say, exists. Young people seek work, seek how to fulfill themselves, seek how to match work and life, how to balance them, etc. But why do they leave Italy? Okay, so we tried to interview a dozen or so young people, some who'd been abroad for years, in Brazil, Australia, from Europe to Asia. Let's hear their voices, and then we'll come back to the studio.
Why did you leave Italy? So I left Italy particularly because I had a job offer not long before I graduated, and now I'm learning some things, some new ways of working. It's a new system which I can bring back to Italy now. I've learned that I realized that I wanted to keep studying, and it was my teacher who told me, I recommend you carry on studying, but don't do it here in Italy. Thankfully, I found what for me was the fundamental thing, which was a group of teachers. I found some teachers, and that's the thing that probably I was missing in Italy. So in Italy, there was some opportunities, but in my uni, there were very few places. There are some opportunities come out when they are. The salaries are ridiculous compared to what I get now or what you can get abroad. I make 4 times as much what some of my peers in Italy make now. It's a place and here I've got a good climate. There's not a competitive climate as much, and at the same time the level's very high. So my wife and I, we were born and raised in Sicily, and we moved to Milan for 9 years ago to study. But honestly, we had every intention to carry on our life in Milan. We were both working. We had good friends. We lived well there. But the question of work was one that was very difficult for us, and it forced us to look elsewhere. So I found a more dynamic environment, a chance to expand my career and expand my horizons. I had alternatives in Italy, but then when I came here, they made me an offer, a job offer that I took now, which was 4 times better than what I was being offered in Italy, in Milan. So I decided to stay here. Initially, the idea of going abroad was just to do research without having which is often quite difficult to do in Italy, both because the idea of going out, of leaving, seeing how they did things in different countries really interested me. Once I finished my doctorate, I'd done a few interviews just by chance for some jobs in Italy, in consultancy at a bank. And from one way or another, everyone asked me if I was married, if I had children, if I had a family. Something like this in London, you're never asked something like that. In terms of research, surely an advantage of being abroad is being in contact with people of different cultures. I didn't decide to leave Italy, I decided to go abroad. It's that's how I define it. The idea wasn't to leave abroad, but to open my horizons. And I studied physics in Italy, but I wanted to carry on in the field of research. And it's good and it's important to open your horizons in that field, to meet more research groups and different ways of working. For this dimension of being abroad but feeling in Europe. And initially it just started as an Erasmus, which then opened some doors to me in studying to studies in Italy, which in Italy don't exist. So I carried on studying it abroad, and then I found work abroad as well. Because the work I do in Italy doesn't really exist, and a musician in Italy, unfortunately, even from an economic standpoint, I can give you many examples of people who struggle to make ends meet, or who need to, how can I say, find something to substitute their music with. So I'd worked in Italy before, and I could have continued to do business in Italy. It would have been more difficult compared to what I thought it would have been abroad, and which then effectively it was true what I'd thought. You have the possibility to play in a field which isn't, inclined, is it where you play on the lower side, but finally you can play on a level playing field. And now you can play on an even field with other countries, with other businesses in other countries, and finally it's easier to be involved. So we've seen the reasons. They're different, they're between each other. So how do you judge this phenomenon? So are there some positive aspects, this kind of migration of brains? So I'll start from the last part of the question, then I'll go back. So as you've already said, if it wasn't a brain drain, as it's been said, but rather a circulation of talent, that would be certainly very good and auspicious for it to carry on, because it would allow a circulation of ideas, enrichment, or the English word that's cross-versalization, which is, it gives us a chance to contaminate, to exchange ideas, to spread information on another level, as what Lorenzo was talking about, the ability to be exposed to different ideas, different cultures, different customs, different stimuli. It should enrich people. The idea is then, how do you attract in the opposite sense? How do you make sure that these people who go abroad come back home? And so how can we make sure that even foreigners decide to come to Italy? How can we make sure they're attracted by Italy? Speaking about Milan, because that's the one I know at the best, the Milanese students attract foreign students. Then if you talk with teachers and head teachers, they come here, but they don't stay to live and work in Italy. So there's an issue of attractivity. Milan is a difficult city because of how expensive it is, which has already been said, but as a country, we need to become more attractive. If you forgive the comment, I think about the lady who mentioned from Dubai. Yes, in London, no one would ask you how old you are and if you're married in a job interview, or if you have children as a woman. So there's no discrimination of age there, because you don't put your age on a CV, and you don't put what your family status is. So we need to become more attractive, yes. And what does that mean? So we need to make sure that people come back. It's not, the idea isn't to stop people leaving, it's to make people come back, make people arrive, which means having business culture themes here that attract people more. And I'll go back to the topic of women, which isn't the topic of the talk, but we've been reading about it these days, of the new European directive of managing the gender pay gap. It's the problem of the gender pay gap between men and women is a big topic, which is something that should be a good stimulus. And obviously I need to read the directive later, understand if it's the best tool or not. But what the initiative I'm taking from this is that we need to change the position we're in, knowing who makes what, regardless of who occupies a work position. So it's a question of skill we want to focus on, not if it's a man or a woman doing the job. So with respect to abroad, to what goes on abroad, we can learn to apply some better HR practices about skills and certain positions that aren't discriminatory, and to create a different workplace culture. young people, the new generations, millennials, Generation Z, what do they look for? They look for sustainability, good sense. They look for purpose. They look for perspective, for job perspectives, as we heard earlier. So what is the perspective? It's not just a question of building a career in a technical sense, but rather of impact. What's the impact I have? What sense do I manage to give to my actions? This means a cultural difference in the way in which organizations, which businesses approach their workers. So Luca Farè didn't become a businessman. He's a university researcher. He did 4 years in Belgium, and now he's back. So Luca, why did you go abroad? What did you find there, and why did you come back? At this point, it's curious the fact that we have in the flesh someone who decided to come back. So hello everyone, thank you for inviting me. Why did I leave? So I did all my school years in Italy. After graduating in economics, I wanted to do a research doctorate and do it abroad. For me, would have represented an enriching possibility from a professional and personal standpoint. I didn't have the intention, let's say, to leave Italy initially, but what I decided to do eventually was I wanted to choose a job opportunity that had the highest learning opportunity for me. So, with regards to what we've heard earlier, why did you decide to come back to Italy? I decided to go because I decided to follow that possibility in which, as part of, in regards to those people who gave me a job, I saw that they wanted to work with me and not that I work for them. I wanted to work with someone, not for someone. And I saw that with a lot of young people I met, not only in Belgium, but in many other countries. This was the first thing that drove me to look for opportunities outside as well. The second point was training, was quality training that was solid from primary school to university, that allowed me not only to gain some skills, some information, the knowledge that allowed me to play my cards right abroad. But also I recognized, I learned that they opened my mind, they stimulated my curiosity, and the fact there's so many young people abroad, from my point of view, is a positive sign, because it reflects the fact that our education system that is a quality system, because it allows people to acquire skills, to acquire knowledge, and stimulates people to broaden their horizons. So we'll try and make a point of this now, because it seems contradictory at times that it stimulates thinking and stimulates acquiring skills, but then some things seem to be missing. A couple of skills to enter the job market seem to be missing. So we'll try and think about this as well. So let's make a point about 2 points that have emerged until now. Bianchi was talking about, and then Dr. Poggio mentioned as well, that we need to be more attractive. If our country doesn't become more attractive, and it will surely fail to compete in this increasingly globalized world. And there's another point, and I'll mention what Maternini mentioned earlier, and it's a fundamental part of the second half of our talk, the question of training, of education, because in this case it's central. It's a central theme. We need to think about all these young people who decide to leave after graduating, both to northern Italy and southern Italy. There's twice as many people who graduate in the south of Italy, then decide to move. They go either to the north of Italy, or they go abroad. So we need to think about that. There are some good examples here, and I'd like to tell you a couple. For us, it's Gabriele Ricotta, who takes us to a business in Sicily which focuses on education, on training, and it manages to attract young people and grow talent. Yes, I got an offer from multinational to move to Milan with a good salary, but now I don't only look at the salary. Young people like me, we tend to look more now at the relationship we have with the work and its quality, and with the quality of life that derives from that. And for us now, education and training is an important part of our growth. He managed to stay in Palermo in the Web Genesis business. The business is in constant growth, which in the IT sector, and is highly specialized. So in the south of Italy, there is work in this type of sector, but we're missing specialized professional resources for our needs in the market. We hire a lot of young people, young graduates, but then we need to impart some more training onto them to specialize their skills to our needs in the market. today, therefore, training young people to enable them to remain in the South with good quality of life and good education, with a good job, can mean the difference for the growth of a business. Continuous growth is something that we put in place to defend ourselves from the competition by multinationals, which on the market are now looking for more and more specialized personnel in our sector. Sometimes it's not sufficient. We use welfare systems, we use adequate systems that are important, and I'd like to say that the workplace climate is very important. We always try and work with businesses like ours that allow us to grow more and more. Beyond this, we also have to think about the possibility to stay in where you live, in your country. And here I can do something for my land, in my land. Making space for young people by offering quality work and quality of life can therefore become a valid tool to grow and consolidate businesses. From 3 people, we went to 380 employees as a group. So from 2009 to today, we've grown, and it's grown from just in Calabria to being across the country. And we've been focusing on young people. In fact, 50% of our workers are under 40. And we're now focusing on women as well. In our sector, we've got, the IT sector, there's a strongly male focus, but 30% of our workers are female. Even through welfare, which we've achieved through welfare aimed at women and mothers. Francesca works in the web sector at Web Genesis. After completing her specialist training, she left Tuscany to move to Calabria, not without fear for her future and for her career. Yes, when I moved, I was afraid, as far as my work was concerned, that I was worried I wouldn't find a job at all, and I was worried I wouldn't find an opportunity that was relevant to what I wanted to do, that would allow me to follow my career plans, and that would allow me to make a quality jump, a quality move, and give me the stability which before I'd never found, and which I managed to find here in Web Genesis. Yes, you can work in the South. It's more difficult if you've got a kind of generic profile, but it's possible with a more qualified profile, especially in a sector like IT or tech.
So also in the South, where maybe there's less opportunity for work, there's still things we can do. So even though the businesses are seeking some certain skills which the young people are not always prepared for. So I'll come back to you, Maternini. How can we close this gap? What in skills and training? So I think this is a principal problem of today, is that how to close the gap between supply and demand, really, between what the skills that the education system, not just in Italy but in Europe, has often expressed into the market, and this is a not secondary theme, the requalifying of the workers, because we need to bring new skills, new professionals, but we also need to reconvert or do upskilling give new skills in digital technologies so people can quickly move into the workplace. But change is also very rapid, so within the company we need also to do a completely different way of working compared to the past, which is requalifying the workers. So there's a datum of Europe called Digital Report, which estimates that in 2025 that there'll be 9 million people with potentially all these different academic systems from Europe, from all the universities, will only bring out 7 million people. So there's a gap here. There's a huge number of skilled people demanded by companies, and what we think is going to come out. So we need new young people to enter the world, but also we need intensive, continuous requalifying programs to continue giving skills to the people. This is what society needs today, not just forming new people, but how to continue training people within companies. So it's clear that the current system is trying to find solutions, maybe a bit improvised, but so the universities are also trying to give a practical training. Academies like ours that in 12 weeks give those basic skills in cybersecurity, data science, so that young people can quickly, new graduates, whatever, can quickly get into businesses. And so the businesses themselves are making internal academies to train quickly the young people. And so there's a system today that's trying to search, maybe making it up as it goes along, to face these big challenges. In the era of artificial intelligence, we've had the internet era. Now we're entering the artificial intelligence era, which will mean some more changes in the paradigms of training. So when you can go to a machine and like in computer development, well, some things I used to have to learn, and now if the computer can do it for me, what's my job? So my job becomes ever more complex, ever more important. There are things like soft skills, creativity, but it's another new challenge for development and training. So I can ask another thing from your experience. In Italy, there are only few graduates, perhaps one of the lowest numbers in Europe. And maybe when these graduates come out, they don't find jobs in what they've studied for. And so companies often move autonomously to do with their own academies to train people. How do you see the relationship between the productive world of the university and the production world and the world of university? So if university is sort of flattening on the production world, or is it the opposite way around? Thank you. So I won't just speak of university, but also of the whole education system. Yeah, we're not excluding anything. Yeah, so certainly that we need a dialogue between the education world, the education system, and the world of work, where you don't need to pretend that just one blames the other, so that it's not that one dominates the others. So we also need we need to develop the education system needs to develop too. We need to talk about skills, applicable skills, and we were saying before that there's an evolution going on with respect to the organizations, the processes, technologies that we have. We will always need ever more people with skills that know how to learn. So we need to follow the ever so quick and accelerating evolution of these systems, of the need to updating skills, and all of this will overcome this, or will seek to face it with a great work as a network between the education system and maybe the problem is we also have few people with diplomas at a third level. So it's qualified people in general. So we need to do a lot of orientation so that the young people, the students, follow their studies, continue studying, doing the paths that match up with what's being requested from the industry, from businesses. So those few graduates, and we've got very few who do the so-called STEM subjects, the scientific, technological, engineering, mathematics things. And then we have the demographic winter to face, which is no longer a question of the future, but is present now. So we absolutely need to work with a lot of focus to projecting this on school. It isn't straightforward. It's not simple, certainly in an organizational world that changes so quickly, but it's an effort that must be made beyond what's happening already. So many people invest a lot of time, a lot of passion in training, but we need to work a lot on planning this, making choices for the young people. Obviously, I'm biased, but the world that is facing a demographic system set up like ours, also from a practical point of view, we can't cut out people for any criterion of gender or age or anything like that. So we need to encourage everybody and follow them, help them out, not censor ourselves thinking somebody isn't up to it if they've done a particular path, and so make it certain that schools, that the education system continues to share in a work as much possible as a network, those with the updates, skills, knowledge, changes in organizational structures in a continuous dialogue. The key thing is dialogue. So I'll go back to the point. It's not that one needs to just impose on the other. It needs both in the world. It's not that the world's work dictates the rules to the others, but nor can we have a system, an education that's closed in an ivory tower without an openness towards what are the changes. Certainly, I'd say this as I'm exaggerating, but there are many universities that are certainly open, but clearly there's an equilibrium that's difficult to maintain. Luca, the university world is certainly the center here. So as we were talking about the risk that we need to face the needs, it's important that these needs aren't squashed. So how can you avoid this risk? I think, first of all, one of the reasons for which many young Italians are sought abroad is because the university system in Italy isn't so totally oppressed by the business world, particularly the Anglo-Saxon system. So as somebody who's been abroad, I see the so-called Anglo-Saxon system tends to bring business dynamics within pedagogical methods. So many group works, exams aren't done by individual people, individual things at the end of the term, but lots of short-term projects and so on, a bit like just like in work. So even the campus idea recalls a bit like the industrial setup. So faculties divided from each of them, each with their own business, each their own area with little integration. So in Italy, on the other hand, the system is more knowledge-oriented, more incentivized to accumulate knowledge and build up. It gives more space to the personal encounter between the student and the subject that he's studying. For example, there are a few group tasks. Lessons are more spread out in time. The exams are longer. This gives more time for the student to study, to develop a critical thought. And the concept of Athenaeum, where people live and study in the same place, this I think gives a surplus of skills, of capacity, critical capacities, and interdisciplinarity, which is rare, which I find it rarer in colleagues from foreign universities. So the source of this benefit is this complementarity between university and the world of work, the business world. So certainly this is HR's business as well, those who choose people, select people. We're talking also about the preparation for this meeting. There's the job of who chooses people, need to be ready to realize that with that openness. So we've done this example, for digital restarts, which is a way to put unemployed people back into industries. Maybe 600 people, divided into various groups. We've managed to, in 6 months, put them back into work. What was the big barrier to pass was the selection process. And so if you don't fit the standard process, the standard criteria, then people get excluded. So now we need to change those criteria, where we seek soft skills, capacities to manage these things. We can't just look at the things that are written on the curriculum vitae. So we haven't forgotten you, Giorgio. I wanted to close with you, really, this thing about university. You've invented something very interesting, I think, which is called instruction payments. So for young people who don't have mum and dad paying for their studies, so what they get some help. What is the philosophy behind this? So as Lorenzo said, we need ever more returns on instruction. So somebody's got to pay for it, either the business or the state, or often the families pay for it for their own children. The idea is that of allowing each person to take part of one of these courses, whether it's university or within an academy, to take one of these courses without having an upfront payment to make. And so you do the course, I get trained, I develop my skills, and then I enter the job market. And once I'm in the job market, then I share a percentage of my salary with those who allowed my formation to happen. So whether it's the state, so maybe because the state has helped me in university, or whether it's an academy that I repay the academy. So the academy was so convinced of the quality of their jobs that they said, don't pay me ahead of time, but I know that I'll train you so well that I'll take a percentage of the money with which you will be able to gain. So this is the tool with which we've seen it working in other states, in the UK, in Australia, in the US. We've brought it to Italy. We started May last year with this tool, thanks to the support from some bank foundations, business foundations, Accenture Foundation, etc., several of these, which gave us €1.5 million at our disposition to try to train people in the digital area. So web security, data analysis, and code and web development. So what we've seen is that in 1 year and a few months, we've supported more than 280 kids, and these courses are very short, 3 to 6 months. They enter the job market and with their reimbursements, they're contributing to the training of other people. The great thing that's made us really passionate is that it's not just that they pay what they owe, but there are cases in which the people have reimbursed more than was given to them. So it shows that they're glad to have had this opportunity because and they want to pay back more because they're glad of what they've received. And so here we try to break down the barriers to entry. On the other side, we've got a virtuous cycle. So these skills help in the job market, and so those skills contribute in a circle. And so the last thing is space. For the third sector entities, if they give a study grant, they can be much more efficient because a grant is very useful. But if I have a crisis, maybe I wouldn't be able to do it if I'm an industry and there's a crisis. But these things would let me monitor the impact. So have I been managed to change the life of that person because it's a person who maybe wasn't working or was working as a waiter, a cashier or something, and after this course they're now able to work as a web developer, and we can think about the salary increase that they've had. We can measure the impact. So let's think of those concepts that you've listed. Let's look at the data, because here we're talking about university formation in particular. The unemployment goes down enormously if you have a degree or a diploma. So we've heard that formation and training needs to be not just on professional things, but also on all levels. So here at Rimini, the city of Italian tourism is where it's particularly important for our economy here. So we need specialized people in all the tasks, all the jobs here. So on this, let's pause for a moment and start with the video from Simona Gallo.
So from the particularities of our school system is to offer kids innovative courses which it can more easily help them to then find their own talents to develop. And developing talents, this is the role of the Fondazione San Nicolò, founded in Poggio, which opens doors to children who want to build their own lives by learning a technical trade. I'm 19 years old. I'm in the 5th year, and I'd like to be a cook. I'm only 19. Thanks to this school, I had the opportunity to do 2 internships, 1 year in the Dolomites and in a 5-star hotel, and the second in France to try French cooking. For me, they found me hotels and restaurants, so now I'm getting involved. Every year they have 4,000 students, and you have restaurant managers, cooks, patisserie chefs, managers, and accountants, professionists in digital, social media managers, and video editing. 4,000 students, let's say 3,800 find jobs immediately, and in any case, we have difficulties in making people come back from their internships to do exams because their workplaces want to keep them with them. So there's a huge demand on behalf of the market, and there's a very huge need. we're working with some kids in their first year here. Today we're making breadsticks and some small pizzas. This is Simone Ferraro, one of the many businessmen who write in this school. He recruits personnel for his business. We produce diplomas that are recognized on a European level, and now we promote internships. And to date, I've got 2 people here who work with my chef, 2 very good members of staff. In this moment, they're preparing a Negroni, and from here we have bar staff as well. We prepare them to work in restaurants, in hotels, and bars. The San Nicolò Foundation, I think it has the idea of starting from each individual and passing through adolescence and forming an adult, training an adult, and making them more robust and stronger in their learning experience, trying to make them capable of facing the challenges of life, learning skills and a work culture. And this is what we try and teach our kids. There's another question for our speakers here. I ask you to concisely say in these past few minutes, starting with Monica, because for almost a decade you were the head of a technical institute, a specialized technical institute that was very specialized. According to a survey last year by Sole 24 Ore, the employability of children who go to these schools has passed 85%. That's a very high percentage. So why are these technical schools not known so little now? So for 2 reasons. Seeing we've not got much time, I'll be concise. Firstly is a question of economic resources. These technical schools exist since 2009, 2010, 12, 13 years. They've run for many years on a presidential decree. Only last year was an actual law approved in terms of financing, in terms of resources. On the other hand, there's a cultural thing. These technical schools, which are still often confused with high schools that are more focused on technological things, but are these post-diploma schools that are new, they're often still confused. In a country where for many years, culturally, after your final school exams, the only idea was to go to university, it's difficult to make people understand that there's an alternative that's extremely professional, gives you a chance to learn more skills, and has high levels of employability. So we want to keep moving in this direction. Our technical schools have a chance to diffuse a knowledge of themselves and awareness that could help young people. So you went to Europe to present a book of yours. I've seen a nice photo of you guys on the internet meeting with Gentiglioni. So has this raised the awareness on the fear in Italy and in Europe of everything that we've been talking about here? So let's be aware that in Europe in 2023 is the year of skills. The EU has focused on the big theme in many different forms, in many different levels, to try and strengthen training and of digital skills. There's another big theme which I think could be quite polemic, politically speaking, and that's of integration of active policies that are linked towards training policy, of educational policy. So right now there are many examples of highly qualified personnel which, for many reasons, it's more convenient for them to stay with us. That's where we need to work. Because with the great need that there is for work, the strength, the possibility to reskill people in digital skills, with the example is the ability to teach even unemployed people in new jobs, new skills. There we have a great chance to strengthen them and a great duty as a society. So what we've been talking about with Gentiglioni is that Europe can incentivize these policies. It can help, let's say, the training policies to enter into the center of what is the world of work. And the goal plan has been mentioned, has defined 6 billion for reskilling, and that you can level some criticisms against it. on what its principal nodes are of this plan. Maybe these the centres that have been set up haven't been the greatest example of training and of education. So what I want to say is that for us, every year we have a big event. This year we'll be doing it on applied AI and on how training and education changes thanks to AI. And afterwards we'll be writing a paper which we'll be giving to the EU. Every year we run this event because it's very important for businesses and for businesses that learn how to reskill properly, that learn about this possibility. It's a very new topic, it's very active. When there's no real solution yet, it's very necessary and we need to face it. I'll ask you again about this on the idea of going for the skills aren't necessary, the idea of reskilling, that you need someone to teach people, you need this innovation, people who are ready to train. Are we ready for this? We're not ready just yet because we're missing the teaching techniques, simplifying the thing as easy as possible. We still teach as you did 100, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, even 800 years ago in certain places. So we're missing innovative teaching techniques, and on the other hand, we're also missing skills. Those who teach the subjects that are needed nowadays. So talk about cybersecurity. We need more experts in cybersecurity. If we look at the degree courses these days, there's about 5,000 teachers needed. We're only about 1,000 who are teaching because the few people who are graduated in cybersecurity, they've gone to work in business. No one remains in unis to teach cybersecurity. So it's very difficult to transfer these skills, to transfer this knowledge, both because the world is moving very quickly and because the people who have these skills go to into the private sector. So this is as an example because it needs a new law requires people to be taught in businesses by people with business experience. So we need to push universities and push businesses to have people who know those skills, teach those skills, and we also need to then, therefore, innovate our teaching methods, which are centuries old. So we'll let Luca conclude to tie everything off together here now. So I'd like to underline three things very quickly. Firstly, seeing so many young people going abroad isn't bad. We need to look at the conditions of why this is happening. It's a positive aspect, can have positive reasons, not only for those who are abroad and for those who come back. Second, not only work and training, now it has an international dimension. And if you allow me to add that Europe was born bringing together coal and steel, two resources which at the time were caused divisions and jealousy. Who knows, with the relaunching of Europe today, if we could move from bringing together a resource that's equally as valuable and equally as divisive, which is that of talent, the circulation of talent we were talking about earlier. Thirdly, and so for this to happen, to come about, we need an entrepreneurial sense that needs to be trained, needs to be educated, needs skills, and that needs to be able to teach, therefore, others and pass on those skills. So we're concluding now. We've run out of time. We'll leave you here with a very brief film that's no more than a couple of minutes from the President of the Republic. And on this topic that we were talking about today, the idea of the brain drain, which for us is, we think it's an improper term, but even the President has mentioned something on the occasion of the 2nd of June of the Republic Day. From the Second World War on, the world has lived through a period of globalization with connections that grow even more rapid, exchanges and encounters between different cultures. Nowadays, working abroad shouldn't represent for anyone a mandatory choice that's free of risk, but rather an opportunity specifically for young people. And it's the responsibility of the Republic that this be a free choice, an open choice. Human experiences learnt in other countries and talents that go abroad. Talents which are precious and are valued, that are aware of how the encounters and the comparisons and exchanges between cultures, the circulation of ideas and of different conceptions are necessary for advancement in all fields. We're talking about moving from brain drain to circulation of talent, to inventing a good circuit of skills and of competencies. The influence of our fellow citizens in other countries has affected other countries incredibly strongly. Dear Italians abroad, the Republic is developing and calls its own quality energies. For you, your life experiences, your intelligence, your experience, your skills in creating networks and communication channels, to be ready, to be witnesses to the specificness of the Italian system and the differences with other systems. So here we are, we're concluding now. This is the most recent edition of the Nuova Atlantida. It's aimed at young people. Young people, who are we and who are you? These are kind of the topics we've been talking about. It covers many of these. We've kind of lit the beacon on many topics here, and you'll find a lot of content in here. So we'd like to thank all of our guests, obviously, all of you who've been here following us, and tomorrow we'll be here together as well at 5 here in A2 to talk about women and work, something else that's surely a very important topic to discuss. Thank you again. See you tomorrow.
Il senso religioso o l'esperienza religiosa è innanzitutto un fatto, un fenomeno obiettivo, un fatto reale, non è un'idea, innanzitutto non è un modo di sentire, non solo si tratta di un fatto, di un avvenimento, ma del fatto più imponente e più inestirpabile della storia dell'uomo. Più imponente, più vasto, che neanche il fenomeno dell'amore dell'uomo e della donna, che neanche il fenomeno del rapporto tra genitori e figli. Perché il senso religioso è un avvenimento che pone, che afferma o che ricerca l'orizzonte entro il quale acquisti senso anche il rapporto tra l'uomo e la donna, anche il rapporto tra genitori e figli. Perciò è più vasto, perfino di quelli.
A te che sognavi di diventare astronauta, manager, scienziato, pilota di aerei, psicologa, supereroe. A te diciamo, non smettere mai di sognare. Investi in competenze, trasforma la tua ambizione in realtà. Scegli Unimarconi, la prima università digitale italiana.
Da un'idea di Giorgio Vittadini, un laboratorio di ricerca, formazione, divulgazione per promuovere la cultura della sussidiarietà, motore di democrazia e sviluppo sostenibile. Fondazione per la Sussidiarietà, da 20 anni, un network che crea consapevolezza e partecipazione per il bene comune.